Hey guys and girls, Board now back with you, and on this video I will be reviewing the first episode of Killing Eve season 3, and it's episode 1 and it is called Slowly Slowly Catchy Monkey, another amusing title. So yes, Killing Eve is back, one of the big returning shows of the year, certainly one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most. It all episodes, sorry, not all episodes, made a mistake straight away there, but in a slight change for the BBC, they've decided to put new episodes up on the iPlayer this time, so it's going to be once a week on Monday, an episode per week, so a bit of a tradition there. But yeah, instead of putting it on like the main BBC channel, it'll be one episode per week on the iPlayer every Monday. So interesting move, sign of the times in many ways. I think part of it is because Killing Eve, one of the previous series anyway, I know was one of the most viewed shows on the iPlayer. So I think this move maybe is responding to that. But yeah, really highly anticipated. I think for me, Killing Eve has been one of the best shows of recent years, the last 2 seasons, especially the first season. I mean, when that hit a couple of years ago, that was just wow, really great stuff. It's such a different way to do a spy show. It was very exciting, had great energy, had great like black sort of humour that really appealed. 2 great leads obviously, and their chemistry. And I think crucially it's a feminist show. I mean, they've put a real twist on the spy genre. And I know for some season 2 was a bit of a disappointment, a bit of a come down. And I'm not sure, maybe it's that they felt it lost its edge a little bit. Obviously they went even further with like the relationship. So maybe some people felt that lost the edge or lost the focus a little bit, but I still liked it personally. I think it's one of those things where the first season sets such a high bar, it was maybe always gonna struggle to live up to that afterwards. But for me, I still enjoyed the second season a lot, and I think if it can keep up a good standard at least, without maybe ever quite hitting the highs of season 1 again, then I'm going to be quite pleased. And so I mean, it's going to be full spoilers really talking about this season 3 opener. And the one thing I'll say is, then I think if you're a Killing Eve fan, if you've enjoyed the previous 2 seasons, I think you'll like this episode. I think there's lots to enjoy in this episode if you're already on board with the show. Likewise, if you're not really a fan of the show, then there's nothing really in this episode that's gonna win you over. Now, it's quite a slow moving episode in some ways. I think it's taking its time setting up like the sort of story for the season, and I think that pays off in a big way at the end of the episode. The ending was, well, really a great example of what this series does the best, where it just like sets you up to think one thing and then just subverts your expectation. And it's just, I think this show is really great at like cliffhanger endings or really like dramatic endings. And yeah, the end of this episode was really set things up. Really did a great job. So I'll get to that in a bit, but yeah, really enjoyable first episode, but definitely took its time setting stuff up. But it had a good payoff at the end of the episode. So yeah, I mean, if you're here for this video, then there's no point me I might as well go into full spoilers because you're obviously a fan of the show or you've seen the show up to now, so I might as well just dive into it. So the big cliffhanger ending of the previous season was with Eve and Villeneuve meeting each other in like Rome in the ruins, and Eve just said, that's it, I can't do this anymore, I quit, I'm leaving. And that's when Villeneuve turned on her. She shot her couple of different times, I think, but shot her, and it seemed to be potentially fatal, and she just coldly left Eve laying, and there you have the cliffhanger, Eve potentially dying. And that's how we ended off last season, and this episode really picks up the pieces from what happened in Rome, not just with Eve, but with other characters. But obviously, I think it's probably no real spoiler to say that Eve does survive because, hey, she's one of the lead characters, and the show would be very different without her. They're certainly not going to kill her off at this point, not at the start of a new season. But in any case, I mean, what the episode does, which I think is quite clever, is it doesn't actually start off with Eve. It actually goes around a few other characters, and then it comes back to Eve later. So it actually handles that very well, because it could have been something when it goes straight back to Eve laying there dying. It could have been like this long drawn out sort of scene. So they actually work around that quite nicely. And then when it goes back to Eve, I think it means something a bit more. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But the first thing to talk about really is then we have a new character, which is Dasha, and she's played by Harriet Walter, who I've seen in other stuff. She pops up in a lot of TV. A lot of kind of crime dramas or like quite big dramatic, like maybe period pieces. Certainly a familiar face. And she's also had a stage career. I was looking at her Wikipedia page, but very experienced. And some great guest stars on this show, so this is another good addition. But it actually opens with Dasha in the past. We get a flashback. It's like Russia 1974, and at first I wondered, who is this character? I have no idea. I wondered if it could be Fiona, her background, but no, it's this new character, Dasha. And we see her being trained at like a gymnasium, and she's got this particular like mean coach who's like a real drill sergeant and really harsh on her. She has this performance which doesn't quite work out, and then afterwards when she's in like the locker room, she just explodes on him. She just goes after him and brutally like pounds his face. It's a really good effect, and they have it well. And then it cuts to this random sort of wedding in Barcelona, and we see that Villeneuve, she's getting married. She's found this girl Anna, and again it's another way that they're kind of playing with your expectations, because when you see it's Villeneuve, you sort of think, well, your mind immediately goes to, what is she up to? What's her angle? Is this like an assignment? Is she planning to kill this girl? But it appears then she's actually in love with this girl and does want to settle down. And I think again that's partly what this episode is about. Then all the big characters, after what happened in Rome, actually too want to get on with their lives and want to change. They want to put the past behind them, and that does seem to include Villeneuve. But it's another great scene, the way it sets the tone with the music, and again Jodie Comer is so on the money. Because they do this thing where it's like the speeches after the wedding, and you've got Anna talking first, and she's doing like this gushing sort of speech, and then we get the music, the kind of like cinematic, kind of evil type, sinister music that Villeneuve has, and it's like her introduction, and she just like stands up because it's her turn to do a speech, and she just smiles evilly. Um, but it's a clever thing because they're sort of the evil smile is almost like hinting that and she could be about to do something like something sinister, but at the same time, to them it's just her smiling because she's happy. But yeah, of course, with it being Villeneuve, she doesn't do anything traditionally. She has to do something kind of messed up and a bit twisted. So when she does her speech, she actually talks about her ex and how she's actually come through like a crappy sort of breakup. And she does say some nice words about Anna, but it's like wrapped up in this kind of negative sort of vibe, because saying how she just came out of this terrible relationship, and it kind of puts the whole room on edge. And as I said, I don't doubt then she actually has feelings for Anna, but at the same time, I do think it's classic Villeneuve. She likes to mess with people. She likes to twist things around and put people on edge. And then the woman, well, it's Dasha. We see Dasha come into the wedding. Obviously, this is in the present day, so she's much older. And the bride sees her, or the groom as it is, and she just goes nuts. She runs straight over to Dasha and starts bashing her. And Dasha, as a go back, we see Dasha is still tough, can still handle herself, but obviously Villeneuve has the advantage as the younger, fitter one, and she just hammers her, and it is a right smackdown at the wedding, and that sets up the whole room. That actually leads to other people at the wedding getting down and dirty. But and the brilliant line from Jodie Comer as Villeneuve is, "This is my special day," she just screams at her. And so it's soon revealed then this is her mother, who she's been apart from for a very long time. And so, yeah, the last person she wanted to see at the wedding. But this obviously is getting more into like Villeneuve's background and her training, because it's revealed then the mother, Dasha, actually trained her. And yeah, it's one of those classic things. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. We can see why Villeneuve ended up so kind of twisted and this kind of like character. But at the same time, I think there's some sympathy, because you see how the mother, I think, probably had a tough upbringing, and that then impacted on her child. But one of the best scenes is when her mother Dash is like doing this training class with like these young kids, and Villeneuve's there as well, and the mother, because they're just like messing up, and the mother unloads, and she just she's just like now piss off, and it's like in like the growly Russian accent. And then after they leave, she turns to Villeneuve and she's like scared the shit out of them, and the delivery is just brilliant. But yeah, in this episode, she's trying to talk Villeneuve into getting back into the killing game, so to speak. Has like a new assignment for her, and Villeneuve, similar to other characters, as I said, actually seems to want to put things behind her and move on. But yeah, I was really impressed with Dasher as a character, and the performance and the look of her is just the hair and the accent. It's like this exaggerated sort of accent, but she has this brilliant look to her, almost like a spooky, like drugged up sort of witch. A really sort of scary character, but a great match for her daughter. Their scenes together are just brilliant. The way they feed off each other, and almost like mirror images in some ways, because we see them that they try and choke each other out. It's like they've got hold of each other at the same time. So great stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Dasher over the course of the season. And then later on, we see Villeneuve is back on the game. So she has this new assignment where she goes into a shop. She's dressed up as like a delivery driver. Again, very different look. And she has this delivery, and she's targeting the woman who's running the shop, who I think must have some sort of background as well, because they get into a fight. But there's some really good physical like moments in the episode where I really like this scene actually, in the way it's shot, because the woman goes up the ladder to like put the delivery away or something, and Villeneuve takes that opportunity to like knock the ladder out from under her, and she lands like splat head first on the floor. It's just like this really long drop because she's gone up a tall ladder. And we just see it's this classic thing. Villeneuve has so many different ways to attack you, and it appears as though she's dead, but she actually like gets back up, and they have a full-on fight. And I think this scene is kind of important, because it just shows like that animalistic, like machine-like quality is still in Villeneuve, because when push comes to shove, when this other woman fights back, she just like goes to another level, and she literally pounds her to death, like just with like this big like block or something. She just hits her repeatedly, and you see blood fly up. It's a really physically sounding sort of kill, and we see like the evil come back to the eyes of Villeneuve. So really good kill. But yeah, this episode does show you then what's happened in Rome has changed things. I do like actually the fact that Sophie sort of been like demoted as a result of like the assignment going wrong, and that it was kind of her judgment. She's like had her like authority sort of taken away. And I did enjoy the touch of MI5 being sued for damages by all the people involved, and Sophie has to listen to that from a superior. But her son Kenny is now a journalist, it turns out. He's left the government, and he works for like this online newspaper sort of thing, publication, whatever. And it seems like a really good role for him. He seems to be settling in quite well. And it seems to be a good way to continue his work, and he can continue investigations, but in a very different way, in a different environment. And things still quite tense with his mother. But yeah, it seems like in this episode they're really setting Kenny up as a big character for the season, really advancing his character. And we see then he's actually secretly investigating like the Villeneuve case. So we see on his laptop then he has like the history of the case. So we see like her victims from like the first season. So I quite like then it goes back over the history, and he's doing it like in secret. But at the moment he feels like he doesn't have enough to like push forward with the case. But one day, he says. So that's when you see the end of the episode, you see how clever this stuff is with Kenny. But switching to Eve, because it's actually several minutes into the episode before we see her the first time. She's recovered. She was in hospital, we hear that, but she's actually like left the service, and she's actually working in like a friend's like Chinese restaurant as a cover, and she's staying with like a relative. And yeah, it really, really good acting from Sandra. Actually, she does this great job of like just showing how vulnerable Eve is, and just how things have affected her, what happened in Rome, and just how fragile she is. But the anger is still sort of there. But there's kind of a funny scene where like these people who work with her are like gossiping and talking about one of their love lives. And the whole thing with Eve is obviously she's had this experience with Villeneuve, and she cuts in at one time and is just really harsh. One of them like tells kind of a truth, if you like, but is really like just very harsh and brutal about it. But I think what's kind of ironic about the scene is that they've been talking in Japanese, and that they just assume that Eve can't understand them, but of course she can with her spy background. So yeah, it just sort of comes out of the blue, then she interjects into the conversation. But yeah, O does a great job in the episode. We just see her vulnerability, and kind of how cut off she is, and this feeling of just wanting to escape things, just wanting a normal life, if you like. We see then there's still issues with her and Micah, and it's brought up what happened to the teacher last season when she was killed. The teacher who like he was flirting with, and it's brought up. He mentions then we had to tell her parents that she committed suicide, because obviously they're not allowed to talk about what actually happened with the case. So still a lot of like ill feeling like from Michael with Eve, and it seems like they are living separately at the moment. It seems like Eve is like almost kind of keeping her head down and living a different life. And then there's a clever little detail how she gets back in contact with Kenny, because she sends a text, and it's like a flirty text, like intended for, I'm assuming, Villeneuve, but she sends it and it involves toilet paper, which is, I guess, quite funny at the moment. But she sends it, but she obviously sends it to the wrong person, because Kenny actually turns up on the door, because the message was something like, I'm in my apartment, I'm waiting for you. And so he shows up. So it's this clever way for them to like meet up again after all this time. And it's a really sweet scene, because they share like a takeaway and they open up, and Kenny says that he's been looking into the case and that he would like her out, but she's determined not to get involved. She's determined that part of my life is over. I don't want anything to do with it. But again, with this being the show, you're pretty sure that then she's going to be drawn back into it somehow. But what's clever about this scene, and the fact that it's a text sent to the wrong person, is it draws Kenny to Eve, and it sort of leads to what we see at the ending. So it's a really clever sort of like plot detail. Because later Eve has a change of heart, and she contacts Kenny, and they agree to meet at his office, his place of work. And he's there on his own, and it kind of cuts between him and Eve, like Eve's on the train. And back in the office, Kenny's alone, but then he hears someone, and he starts looking around, and the music starts ramping up. Some great music again in this episode. Really dramatic sort of beats to the music. And yeah, Eve gets to the office, can't see Kenny. She finds his phone, and again, as she searches around, the music gets really tense. And she finds him outside, he's dead. That's the big sort of shocker. So, I mean, that's what I mean about it, like, subverting your expectations, because it kind of sets Kenny up to be a big character this season, and then sweeps the carpet out from under us. Brilliantly done. The ending was great. It's one of those great, dramatic, shocking type deaths. And it has a great hug because we don't know who's done it. You kind of feel then if it was just Villeneuve, it would be too obvious. You've got to think it's someone working for the organisation, maybe. But the way it's directed is brilliant, and how Eve sells it. But yeah, the camera like pans up to like the window because it's like a tall office block, and pans up to the window, but you don't actually see who's inside. But I think it's just showing you then whoever killed Kenny. A bit like South Park there, who killed Kenny, but yeah, whoever killed him is inside the building still. And then it slowly drifts back down to Eve, and you see her looking up, and that's kind of when it cuts to black. So great final shot with her, yeah, just desperately looking up. So there you have it. That's the first episode of season 3, and I thought it was a really good stuff. I loved the new character Dasher, some classic like black comedy. Again, the mood was there, and it took its time, but it really paid off at the end of the episode. Thought it was a great cliffhanger, and yeah, I'm excited to see more of this season. It's off to a good start anyway, so I will be doing this once a week. About this time next week, I'll be back with episode 2 of season 3. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you've watched this episode. It's up on iPlayer now if you want to catch up with it. But yeah, let me know what you thought, and like and subscribe, all that stuff. Contact me on Twitter if you have any questions or any thoughts. But I will see you guys again soon. Take care. Goodbye.